Double Pop, Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings. It's your Thursday. I'm your friend Dave. How you doing today? Yeah, alive and awake and on this side of the earth here, and the Lord is looking upon you, and all things are good, aren't they? Hope you're going to have an extra special day today. Got a few things planned for you, a couple little tidbits here and there. Verse of the day, little story about stuff from Niagara about my wife and whatever. We got a whole host of good things to talk about today. So hang out with us through the morning, and you'll hear me cut in and talk about a few things and break up the music every once in a while, and we'll go over a verse, and all things will be good, just like the Lord planned it. Amen. Okay, Double Pop Worship Zone, just after 7 on your Thursday. 45 after the hour, 15 to the new hour. Here on your Double Pop Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings on your Thursday. One day to Donut Day. Donut Day tomorrow. Big deal. Look in your area for who's giving out that free donut, okay? Go celebrate Donut Day. Celebrate good things like donuts. Yeah, God made donuts. And so there. Definitely go get your free donut somewhere. Because somebody's going to give you one. On, what would it be? Tuesday, June 2nd. It was the 16th anniversary of, I call Thursday, here we are on Thursday, and I call Thursdays Forgiveness Thursday, whatever. I have all sorts of Atonement Thursday, all sorts of different names for Thursday, usually having to do with grace and forgiveness. On Tuesday, it was the 16th anniversary of one of the most strangest and yet graceful things I think I've probably ever witnessed. And you can certainly look this up on YouTube as well. I'm a big sports fan, and Armando Galarraga, a baseball pitcher, a Detroit Tigers pitcher, he had thrown what appeared to be, a perfect game. Now, Armando Galarraga was a rather average pitcher, not a big superstar by any means. He got through and whatever. And this start, I guess, that he pitched that day, he didn't even know if he was going to be scheduled to pitch that game or not. And he is covering first base on the last out of the game, appears to get the batter runner out. However, the first base umpire calls the runner safe. And in this day and age, probably, just a few years later, the whole thing would be able to be reviewed, okay, and it would have gotten overturned, and Armando would be celebrating his perfect game like everybody else in history. Now, to give you an idea of a pitcher's perfect game, that means you got all 27 batters out consecutively without reaching first base, which has only been done 20, 22, 23 times in history. Not very often, okay, considering all the thousands of baseball games. The call right away is clearly wrong. Clearly wrong. He stages a very brief argument and walks away from umpire Jim Joyce with a smile on his face. His manager comes out and argues the call. The call is clearly not going to be overturned. They don't, they didn't do that back then. And yet he goes out, he just goes back to the mound, and he gets the next man out, and the game ends, and he wins the game with a one-hit shutout. And the umpire, Jim Joyce, is already questioning himself. and he runs into the clubhouse and into the umpire's room, asks for the video, and can see not only is he wrong, he's very wrong. Okay, Galarraga got that man out, and he is heartbroken, in tears. His family, he calls his house. His family's getting death threats. Okay, some sports fans get, of course that's all unnecessary. But he calls his house. Obviously, there's already issues. But Jim Joyce is beyond upset. He calls the league office. He asks his call to be overturned. They won't overturn it. However, the next day, Jim is still on the umpire crew for the next game, which he was told he could get out of because he was concerned for his safety and his family's at this point. But he chooses to man up to this and do the game. And Galarraga brings the lineup card to home plate, ceremonial exchange that starts every game. And there's a lovely warm moment between the two of them. Galarraga is not only forgiven him, he's not even slightly bitter about this. And he just forgives him. Jim Joyce apologizes profusely. Galarraga forgives him on the spot. Tells him it's all going to be all right. The world didn't end over this, did it? Here was an opportunity for a man who will probably never see a historic moment anywhere close to that again in his career. Could have been beyond upset, beyond bitter about it, miserable. Just let it destroy him inside. Right away says, he comes from a country where it's, torn up and everything. There's people without food and people, this is nothing. Just forgives him and says, everything's going to be all right. And I'm not going to say Galarraga's career got all better. He became a famous, you don't even know it. Some people I'm talking to me right now, never heard his name. Probably, I'm going to say better than 90% of you have never heard this man's name. And you've never heard Jim Joyce's name either. Jim Joyce, every single year on June 2nd, on June 2nd, every year, calls the league office and writes them a letter asking for that call to be overturned and give that man his rightful place in baseball history. And every year it's refused. The rules at the time didn't allow it, and they don't want to open up a can of worms to a bunch of other new people that may come in. I don't think anybody in baseball who knows anything about the game and anything about this play would ever object to that call being overturned. It was so darn wrong. But they'll never overturn that. And Jim Joyce will hang on to this, unfortunately, although he's been forgiven. Hopefully one day he forgives himself. He should. We all make mistakes. Baseball umpires have a reputation of a little bit of, wanting to feel the game is about them a little bit. And, maybe and they say he was different after that. He was more humbled after that. And he was a pretty good umpire to begin with. But he was more humble after that. And, sometimes it takes just one grand and glorious mistake in our lives to change things up. Watched it the other day. with somebody I know. Got called out for doing something that they shouldn't have done. Somebody who's wasn't headed down the right direction in many ways. Already starting to see some humbling changes in this person. Perhaps sometimes that's all it takes. And every year I watch the little video on this game and whatever. Quick reminder, not of the mistake, but of the grace, of the beauty of what Armando Galarraga showed to Jim Joyce, and the remorse of Jim Joyce. It was a beautiful thing. Look it up on YouTube. There's many, many, many videos on it. And if you're a believer, it's hard. You'll see the beauty of it, I promise. Okay. We're about at 5 to the hour. Double Pop, Worship Zone. New Mercy Mornings, Thursday. I'm Dave. Double Pop, Worship Zone, 35 past. On your Friday. New Mercy Mornings, Donut Day. Indeed. You know, one of the things, it's been hard here in the Northeast. We don't know what to do. We want to be like get into like summer mode. I bought a bunch of burn logs. I've got burn logs like really piled up over there. And you know, like on Friday it rains. On Friday and Saturday it rains. You can't go out and sit by a fire. Then it's like 30 degrees. And it's like, the wife doesn't want to go out. And even though the fire would probably warm people up, okay, it doesn't warm your back up, and, your back gets cold. She's all bundled up by the fire, and, she's not happy with that. I'd do it, but she wouldn't be happy with it. And so then, but I look forward to that. I think I stacked up on some extra marshmallows for my thing. I got turkey dogs, to make sure that, I get less cholesterol. I can cook over them. Sometimes we put on Double Pop Worship Zone. We did the last fire we did. And or sometimes we just put on some nice worship songs, and first we play all kinds of music, but then we finish the night with some worship songs and maybe a Bible reading. It's a wonderful way to get a good worship time in. Sit by the fire and talk about the Lord a little bit. It's a good situation, right? But the temperature's jumping all over the place here in the Northeast. Okay, are driving everybody crazy. Okay, they go from 90 to 35. All sometimes like in the same day. So I'm here to and people get sick from that. But I'm here as a medical professional to give you this advice on what to do to ever avoid that situation. Ready? Okay, this is critically important. Don't go out. Stay in your house and never leave. Okay? And then you won't have to face any of that. All right. You heard it here from me. Double Pop Worship Zone. Friday. Donut Day. Go get a freebie somewhere. Double Pop Worship Zone, 1:30, where you are and where I am. New Mercy Mornings on your Friday. So June 5th, history. Today in 1968, one of the saddest days in American history, Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. Sirhan, the convicted assassin, is still in prison. He was approved for parole a few years ago, and the governor would not sign off on it. So he remains there. He is, I think, 82 years old. Also today, in 2004, Ronald Reagan passed away. He was in his 90s. He Ronald Reagan was the president. Was for some of us the president of our lifetime. If you were an '80s person, and '80s were a pivotal time in your life, like they were in mine and a lot of other people. President Reagan was the guy, and whether you agreed with him or disagreed with him, in many ways you couldn't help love him. He was a lovely guy, and engaging, and a heck of a speaker, and one of those people who, honestly, he was one of those people who I wanted to model like a presence after. That he was an idol, in the sense that I loved the way he spoke to people. I loved how he was kind and engaging, and always concerned for others, and genuine in every single way. And so he was truly somebody who lived in our hearts even after his presidency was over, and certainly not long after he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, which many people, towards the end of his presidency, could start to see a little bit of a decline in him. And then he lived to 2004, and it was obviously he was certainly ready for it, I'm sure. But on the other hand, though, what went with him was a legacy of, first of all, a good presidency, one that we've always felt, secure and respected. And on the other hand, too, just a human being that we'll all remember for the rest of our lives for his decency and his kindness. Double Pop, Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings, Friday, Donut Day. If you haven't got your free one yet, go get it. Double Pop, Worship Zone, New Mercy Mornings, 16 after the hour. And yeah, it's going to be that time where families, graduations or end of school years are occurring, and people are going to be home, and big summer decisions need to be made. It's such a crazy thing. I mean, used to be, a lot of families like mine, we never, when I was very young, we took a family vacation. My father had a shutdown of about 2 weeks, and he was able to secure a cottage by the shore, which was interesting. And what I recall about it was being there when the moon landing happened in 1969. But that was our one trip together or whatever, and then he went back to work, and then we went back to our summer activities, which one day I'll tell you about my summers with our what we used to call summer playground, but we called it summer school, and it wasn't really school, but I'll get into that someday. Anyway, but vacations have changed. Families, sometimes they take a big vacation together, but sometimes they become unaffordable, or there's one of the family members is working, or the teens are working. Summer is such a thing to navigate, and I remember when my kids being younger, how we were constantly trying to navigate summer and activities, and where they were going and what they were doing and all that. And now you always have to have something planned. Summer's expensive. Summer's not cheap anymore. That was the one thing my parents used to love about summers. It didn't cost them anything. We weren't in school. They weren't paying for lunches or anything like that. Everybody was home. We were doing our activities. If they didn't, in our free range days, we used to be able to just take off and disappear, and they were happy with that. It didn't cost them, maybe a few nickels and dimes here and there, or nothing extravagant. Now summer's expensive, and the parents got to pay for it, either care or whatever. The days of the free range are by the wayside for the younger kids. You got to know where your kids are all the time, or you're tracking them on your phone or whatever. It's not as simple as it used to be. So tell me about what you do. I want to hear about it on the Facebook group page. If you have anything planned or what you do, how you navigate summer. Interested in hearing different perspectives on it, and you know, one day it'll be a lot of fun to discuss them. Okay, Double Pop Worship Zone, Numeracy Mornings, Friday. Double Pop Worship Zone, Numeracy Mornings on your Thursday. Quarter past the hour. It's Dave. So you remember we were talking before about the turning points of people in their attitudes and behaviors. You know, it kind of brought to mind with me our grandson, Icon, who I've told you about here before. He's the one who gave me the name Double Pop. Icon, as a really young kid, had a horrible attitude. Sweet boy at times, but really, really bad attitude. Could be nasty at times, could get riled up. And then one day, he was playing his video games, and he got really upset. He lost or something. Something went down in the game. And he threw the controller and at the TV, and he broke it, the TV. And that was Ike's turning point. When he saw the capacity for his temper, even at a young age, and I mean, I think he was maybe 5 or 6, when he saw what he was capable of with his temper, he changed dramatically. He went from the lion to the lamb, and has been ever since. There is no kinder, sweeter, gentler creature on this planet than Icon. And all it took was that one event when he saw what temper can do, what being mad and mean and whatever can change things. He broke his beloved TV. His parents got mad at him. But I think he was more mad that his TV was gone. They didn't replace it right away. But then he saw what it can do to you and how things could turn out just by being angry and having a temper. One event turned it all around. Now he's 19 years old, and he's about the kindest member of the family. And you can count on him for even wisdom and general all-around stability. He's a good boy. And I pray he stays that way. God willing, he will. Double Pop Worship Zone. Dave on your Thursday. Double Pop Worship Zone, 10 to the hour. Dave, wrapping up your Thursday on Numeracy Mornings. We will do it all together tomorrow for Donut Day, big day, and we'll be right here waiting for you like we always are. So may our Lord Jesus leave the light on for you, and we will be right back here tomorrow. Same time, same station, and we look forward to talking with you like we always do. Double Pop Worship Zone, Numeracy Mornings. Peace.